which is on absolute value. So we already kind of did a lot of absolute value in that study guide packet. I'm starting to think that maybe that topic test or their test that they did that study guide for was based on chapters 1 and 2, but it's fine because you're not even getting a chapter 1 test, so it's okay. It's nice though because we already started seeing absolute value, so now it's just learning a bit more than that. And I'm seeing a lot of issues with Zoom. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to try and get through. There we go. More people are joining. So again, if people are concerned about not having, not being available, I am recording it. It will go up later. I know that there were issues with the Zoom link from Friday's meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that so you guys can watch that as soon as possible. And I'll make sure it doesn't happen for this one, okay? Especially since today you guys seem to be having a bunch of issues, but I want to get started because we're running out of time. So today I'm not feeling too well, so we're going to go through the notes together. These are the notes that first period and third period have gotten. And then what you're going to do is I assigned some Khan Academy lessons. I know we don't want to do the Khan Academy, but it's just today because I'm not feeling too well, all right? So you can go ahead and do that. That is for a grade. So it is a participation grade. So you go on there, you do it. That's also going to be your homework. So your homework transfers over. So you can actually start in class. I know in third period, I had some students that actually finished all the lessons. It's just 8. And I think the majority of them are just videos. So it's not so bad. I can actually double check really fast right now. It's, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's half and half. 4 videos and, or not even 4 videos, 3 reviews, and then like a review, but it's apparently doesn't count as an assignment that they have. I'm not sure how it works, but it looks like it's counting just like if it were a video. Okay, so that means it's 5 videos, 3 actual activities. But it's good because we start getting used to the absolute value. And remember, you can retake the Khan Academies so that you can actually get 100%, which is what you want. You want to get in that green, okay? So we're going to start. Absolute value, which we already know, represents the distance between x and 0 on a number line. So here's my example. Right? Absolute value represent, that's how we write the absolute value. Although we should be familiar with it, that's the symbol for absolute value. Then we have the example on the number line, right? We go from -5 to 0, and from 5 to 0, it's distance, so it's just 5, no matter which direction I'm going in, okay? So, and if by the way, if you guys are having issues that your classmates can't get on, so like I know that Ashley is sharing, you guys can share the computers, that's fine. Just so you guys can pay attention and learn what's going on. I know it's a little weird, and I was already asked in 4th period when I'm coming back. I won't be back until the week of the 28th of September. So the week of open house, I will be back, I think that Wednesday or that Thursday. Probably that Thursday, because I think technically Wednesday would have been my first day. Okay, so I'll be back not this week, but next week. Okay, and then hopefully we will get back to order and we can keep going on these things. But we're gonna have to do some kind of quiz, right? So that I can see what we learned about absolute value and what we learned while I was not in the classroom. And that quiz will be a grade. So I would suggest paying attention and watching the YouTube videos, asking me questions, whatever it is, asking your friends questions, sharing the computer, whatever works, okay? So the absolute value, you guys remember, I told you that the absolute value is really 2 graphs that just connect at that one point, okay? When you have a function that's really represented by multiple equations, it's called a piecewise function. It should hopefully maybe sound a little bit familiar. A piecewise function. Basically, a piecewise function is, like I said, it's a bunch of equations, and depending on your values, you would use a certain equation for that. So in this situation, this is the actual for the parent function, right? The parent absolute value function. This is your piecewise function. Okay, so if x is greater than or equal to 0, you're going to use positive x. If your x is less than 0, you're going to use a negative x. Okay, so then basically I have here the little chart. So you can see what corresponds to what. So if I'm at negative, corresponds to this inequality, right? The x is less than 0. Same thing with -4. 0, because it is x is greater than or equal to 0, falls in the positive x category, okay? And 4 and 8 also are in the positives. Those are a bit easier, right? So that's with absolute value. Are there any questions for me on absolute value? We kind of, like I said, we kind of already talked about absolute value. But this next thing we're talking about is very, very helpful, okay? Not just with absolute value. This is the one for absolute value, but like I said before, every function has a different thing, right? Parabolas have that x squared. Absolute values are an absolute value of x, and you have x cubed, and you have the linear one, which is just x. So all of those things have a specific general transformation equation. Okay, now what this is a basic, it's the equation, but it fills in for you using letters the different types of transformations you can have. Okay, so remember when we did our study guide, there was a lot of problems of like, you know, you had a graph and it started up over here, right? It's not accurate, but you get my idea. It wasn't at the origin, and you had to figure out the equation for that function, okay? So how you would do that is using this handy dandy equation. So I kind of already split it up. So your A and 1 over B are compressions or stretches, okay? That affects, you know, the size of the shape of the function. Then you have the h, which we should already know. If it's next to the x, it's moving right or left. And then we have the plus k all the way on the outside, which is moving up or down, okay? So you would use this general equation to figure out the transformations that are being done to a graph, okay? So I'll leave this up for a little bit. If you guys need to copy, I know Trinity just joined us, so I'll give a few minutes to copy the notes. It's much faster when the notes are pre-written. Bye. You guys are very quiet today. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Trinity, I know you came in late, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move on, and then I'm gonna go back to this page, because as I was explaining earlier, I'm not feeling too well, so I'm giving you all the notes now, and then you guys are gonna work on Khan Academy that I already assigned the lessons. So once I finish there's only 2 pages of notes, this and another one. Once we finish the other one, I'll go back to here so you can finish copying, okay? I don't want to spend too much time. Okay, so this is using that general transformations equation to actually create a formal one based off of a graph. Okay, so I have here, again, pre-written notes. I have here 2 different graphs here, right? This is my parent that starts at 0, 0, And up here is a second absolute value function after some transformations, okay? So what I want to do first off is figure out my easy transformations, right? The easiest one is going from 0, 0 to 2, 5. So what do I have to do to get from 0, 0 to 2, 5? You guys can put it in the chat or you can unmute and talk to me, whichever you prefer. So how do I get from 0, 0 to 2, 5?
Go over to the right twice, and go up 5.
Exactly. So I want to go 2 to the right and then up 5. So based on my equation, right? H here is my left and right, so I replace it with 2. And remember, when we're moving left and right, we move the opposite of the sign. So if I'm wanting to move to the right, which is the positives, I'm going to subtract 2. Okay. And then my K, which is my up and down, just stays plus 5. Okay. So that's my first part. That's the basic transformation I got. But I notice, maybe this is an example from your book. So if you want to look at a better drawn graph, you can look at it in your book. But we can kind of see that this reddish graph is much wider than my original parent function. Okay, so that means somewhere is a multiplication. Now, conveniently in the problem, it tells me A equals 1. Okay, so that pretty much eliminates my A. I don't have to worry about it. Why? Because anything times 1 is itself. So I don't have to write A. I don't have to write 1. I can just go ahead and keep writing, which would just be that 1 over B, and then the rest of the equation, x minus 2 plus 5 at the end. Okay, now I need to figure out what B is. That's the one thing I'm missing. So on my graph, they give me a second point at 6, 6. Okay, so now I'm going to replace my g of x, which remember is my y, which is 6, and I'm going to replace my x, which is conveniently also 6. So they could have given me any numbers. They made it simple, right? 6 and 6, but they could have given me 5 and 2. They could have given me 3 and 7. They could have even given me negative values, but they gave me 6 and 6. So I just replaced those values in my equation, and then I can go ahead and solve like I normally would. I'm solving for B though. Okay, so then I can just do 6 minus 2, which gives me 4. Then I multiply. Remember, we multiply across. So 1 times 4 is 4, and B times 1 is just B. So it becomes 4 over B, still with my absolute value, with that 5 on the outside. I don't want that 5 on the outside anymore, so I'm going to move it over by subtracting it to both sides. 6 minus 5 gives me 1, which is 1 equals the absolute value of 4 over B. Okay, now remember that when we do absolute value, we get 2 equations from it. We get the positive 4B, and we get the negative 4B. Okay, luckily, it's pretty easy because they equal to 1. So when I multiply by B to clear out my denominator, I don't really change anything. I just end up with B equals, because B times 1 is just B. So I get B equals 4 and B equals negative 4. Okay, I'm going to rewrite that so it's not scratched out. B equals 4 and B equals negative 4. Now we know that absolute value is distance, right? So distance can't be negative. The other reason we don't care about this negative 4 is because we're talking about a transformation, and the graph is still pointed in the same direction. It would be different if it was pointed downward, right? But because the graph still opens up, we're looking at a positive value, okay? So we just want that 4. After that, we replace B with 4 from my original equation over here. And that gives us g of x is equal to the absolute value 1/4 but times x minus 2 plus 5. So if I were to pick any x value, I can find the y and graph it using this formula. Okay, so this is right when we said f of x is the parent. This is my child, right? My child transformation graph. This is basically this original one with a bunch of things done to it so that it looks different than the original, okay? And that's it for the notes for this. So, like I said, it was very short today, but you do have the Khan Academy lessons to do now and as well for homework, okay? So you can go ahead and get started. If you need me to go back to the first page for the notes, let me know, and I will. You can put it in the chat so I know for sure. Or you can tell me. Very quiet today.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat the question?
Do you need me to go back to the first page?
No.
No? Okay. So otherwise, you guys can go ahead and start working on the Khan Academy. Remember, it's for a grade. So progress reports this week, the 23rd, they take your screenshot. So I'm going to have all my grades in most likely by the 22nd. So if you check on the 22nd